Hey guys, welcome to this episode of The Rachel Cruze Show, and I am so excited about this episode because some of my favorite guests are here, and according to the views, last time they were here, some of your favorite guests, the Minimalists, are here. Guys, welcome back.
Thanks for having us back.
Y'all are some of my favorite people. I talk about you in my book half the time on this show. We're always talking about the Minimalists, so I love having you here in the flesh.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so for people that are kind of newer to your message, obviously the Minimalists gives a brief overview of what you guys are passionate about, but what is minimalism?
Well, it starts with our stuff, right? We have all this clutter in our lives. The average American household has 300,000 items in it. That'd be great if it was making us happier, more content, more joyous, more peaceful, more tranquil. But you know it's doing the opposite. More stress, more anxiety, more discontent, more overwhelm. We're doing more. In fact, we're pursuing more than ever. And we're not stopping to consider, how might your life be better with less? And that's really where minimalism starts with us, with that question, understanding the benefits of simplifying, of letting go. We start dealing with that external clutter, and then we look inside and we say, you know what? I've got psychological clutter, mental clutter, emotional clutter, spiritual clutter, career clutter, relational clutter. We're able to start dealing with that once we've cleared the excess physical clutter in our lives.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing thing, though, because I know I've talked about it on the show, but even doing the challenge.
Yeah, the minimalism game.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
How'd that go for you?
It's amazing. It's amazing, y'all. Because in my new book, I talk about quality versus quantity. And I lean quantity. I lean having 20 pairs of earrings that I get to choose from, all of that. That's naturally where my bent is. And I say on that scale, you want to have that moderation, because if you go too much on that side, obviously you end up with so much. And I hate to say it, I'm so guilty of that. So doing the game helped me so much.
Awesome.
Clearing it out. And even just this idea, you guys talk about it all the time, but it's true, of just that your stuff is not going to make you happy.
No. Did you make it through the full month?
I did, yes.
That's awesome.
I know, I was telling y'all earlier though, I think one picture, because I did it on social media, I tracked it. And I think one time I had a bobby pin, as I counted for one of the things that I threw away, and everyone got so mad at me. They're that's not a thing. I was I'm sorry.
Well, look, we make up the rules. Here's how the game works for those who are watching at home and they don't know about this minimalism game. You can find it at theminimalists.com/game. It's also at the end of our new documentary, Less Is Now, on Netflix. And basically, it starts off at the beginning of the month. You get rid of one item. But you team up with someone, so a friend, family member, coworker. Decluttering's boring. We make it a little more fun, a little more challenging, with some friendly competition, right? And so, beginning of the month, first day, one item. Second day of the month, 2 items. Third day of the month, 3 items. Starts off really easy. Get you that momentum you need. By the middle of the month, though.
You're hitting day 18. You're 18 things. I gotta find 18 things.
Tomorrow I gotta get rid of 19.
Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome. You made through the whole month. That's
I did it.
That's
totally.
500 items almost.
It was amazing.
Incredible.
It was amazing.
Wow.
Okay, so why do you think, because it's so common sense, right? We know this. We chase after stuff. It's part of the American culture. Why do you think it's just not clicked? How is it that people just, it's not man, it just doesn't stick.
Common sense, unfortunately, isn't too common these days.
I know.
And I was stuck in that boat. When I first heard about minimalism and Josh introduced me to it, that's the first thing I thought. I was like, oh, this is common sense stuff. But here's a philosophy that helps put these common sense things into practice. I think one of the major aspects is we see over 5,000 advertisements a day. And it's really crazy because even drug commercials, right? The United States and New Zealand are the only 2 countries you can advertise drugs in. And then you go to other countries, don't even allow billboards. And it's here in the United States, because we allow all those things, we see so much advertisements that it seeps in. It gets into our subconscious. And we all have this crisis of meaning. We want to be significant. And advertisers know this, and they play on it. So what they do is they put a commercial together or a campaign together, and they're like, hey, you have this problem. It's okay you have this problem, because guess what? We have the solution for this problem. So those advertisements just, I think, is what really helps us or makes us disconnect from that common sense stuff.
Yep.
Where minimalism, what I really appreciate about it is how it helps filter through all that noise.
Okay, so tell me about the new documentary, Less Is Now. I loved your first documentary. So great. So what caused you guys to do a second one? What's it about? Tell me everything.
So Ryan was just talking about the drug commercials. You know how they always talk about the side effects? I wish they do that with all the stuff that we consume as well. Here are all the side effects of the stuff. And really, that's what this film is about. It's about starting over with less, because we've unfortunately accumulated all of these side effects. As Dave calls it in the film, stuffitis. We're suffering from stuffitis. We've accumulated so many things. And so what we want to do is show people how they can start over. So in the film, we have 5 different experts. We also have 30 different everyday minimalists. We go into the homes, literally, and we see people, how they're profoundly affected by the first film, but also how letting go has changed their lives and allowed them to start over and move in a new direction.
Yeah, I feel like our first film was a nice, broad perspective of minimalism, and we had different experts to really talk about the problems: fast fashion, environmental. I mean, there's a ton of problems out there. I feel like with Less Is Now, we really came up with a solution for people to face all of those problems.
So good, yeah, because it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
To say, okay, I'm going to start this new way of looking at life and decluttering, getting stuff out of my life to actually have the margin to enjoy life. And I think a part of that, though, for people on the symptom side, they go and get all this stuff. And in this line of work on the show, we talk about debt a lot and the amount of debt that people are in and how that burdens them and takes their joy, their options so much in life when they are going into debt for these things. So this kind of all goes hand in hand. So for you guys in your line of work, I'm curious, how do you see debt play a part in people's consumption and their life and their joy?
Yeah, we definitely prescribe to the same philosophy as you all, as far as, there's no such thing as good debt. And, conversely, there's no such thing as bad debt. I mean, really, debt is just debt. Yeah, and the thing is that debt has all those side effects. Side effects may cause anxiety, stress, discontent, depression.
Loss of freedom.
Yeah, loss of freedom.
Yeah.
So, that's really what drove me to really start to simplify and pare down and really just try to regain control of my finances, which really helped me regain control of my time. So I went to Josh and I saw that he was living a different life. He seemed to be happier. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He told me this common sense stuff. And then I just had this light bulb moment of like, oh yes, like I could totally live a much more meaningful life if I didn't have all this debt. And I did the worst thing. Like I had a bunch of debt. I had a really good job though, so I could pay for all those debt payments.
Sure.
I get a promotion, and you would think I would be like, oh great, I got a promotion. Maybe I could pay off some of this debt. In my mind, I was like, okay, now what debt payments can I afford?
That's right. Yeah.
And
your
it
lifestyle increases with the promotion.
Yeah. So I was just on that hedonic treadmill, and debt played a huge role in the discontent and the depression that I was going through.
Yes, and I know that about your story. So talk to people that do have that shame, they have that guilt, even anxiety when it comes to money, specifically of debt, specifically because they just are going deeply in debt for things they can't afford to think, okay, this is just how I'm supposed to live. What would you say to those people?
Well, there's a philosopher named Rene Girard, and he came up with this term called Mimetic Desires. And all that really means is what you really want isn't what you think you want. Right now, what you want is what everyone else wants. It's mimetic. It's mimicking everyone around you. So realizing like, oh, wait a minute. All these things I thought I wanted, and I went into immense amounts of debt for. Personally, I had almost $500,000 worth of debt. It took me years to pay it off, right? Now, realizing that, I got everything I ever wanted, just to realize that everything I ever wanted wasn't actually what I wanted. This isn't the American dream. This is the American nightmare. Yeah. And I think the new American dream is to be debt-free. Shame, you mentioned shame, it's different from guilt. Guilt says I did something that I don't feel good about. It's incongruent. Shame says I've done it over and over and over. Now I'm that type of person.
Yep.
Well, the only way to break the cycle then is what? To change my actions so that my short-term actions align with my long-term values.
So good. And I love what all this is pairing together because I'm like, we're a whole person. So the way you parent, the way you do your money, the way you are at work. I mean, you are one person, right? And how much that affects your life and your emotions. And money is part of that. Like, it's going to affect you on a deep level if you don't have control over it and your stuff just owns you and you're kind of that rat in a wheel.
Yeah.
So for someone watching, like, man, this all sounds so good. It sounds so refreshing. What are 1 or 2 steps people can take tactically to say, okay, I'm going to kind of enter this world of minimalism where my stuff doesn't own me anymore? What does that look like?
Well, we talked about the 30-day minimalism game, so that's a great place to start.
fun, yes.
Because what that does, it doesn't like solve all your cluttered problems, but it gives you a really nice start. It gives you some momentum, and that's really what people need. I know this is what I need to be successful with anything I kind of go into. But before anyone does that, I would suggest that they start with this one question: how might my life be better with less? Because we have to understand why we're decluttering. Because we all know how to declutter. Anyone watching this, they could go to their closet and take everything out, throw it in a dumpster. But if they don't know why they're doing that, that decluttered closet is going to become cluttered again in the not too distant future.
Yeah, and then in addition to that, I would say set up some boundaries. We might call them rules. On our website, we have a free ebook. It's called 16 Rules for Living with Less. And in that ebook, what we try to do is create rules that aren't really strict. They allow for some wiggle room. If you want to adjust them, they're rules that work for me and Ryan, and you can adjust them for your own taste. So I'll give you a few examples. One's the seasonality rule. Pick up any item in your house. It could be your couch. It could be that old sweater in the back of your closet. It could be an old toaster that you haven't used in years. Ask yourself, have I used this in the last 90 days? If not, am I going to use it in the next 90 days? Be honest with yourself. And if not, give yourself permission to let go. It's okay. We call it the 90-90 rule. Another rule is the spontaneous combustion rule. So if you pick up some sort of item, say it's a sentimental item, your grandma left it behind, this giant quilt, and you just can't part with it, but it feels like a burden. How would you feel if that spontaneously combusted right now? I'm not telling you to set it on fire, but how would you feel? And if you realize I'd feel really upset, well, then maybe it has some sort of meaning to you. But if you feel a relief, like most people would, maybe it's a sign it's time to let go.
Yeah.
So good. Oh, you guys, I'm about to go home and clean up my closet again. Every time I hang out with them, I'm like, geez, I'm going to go back through my house.
I'm sorry, or you're welcome. I don't know.
It's all of it. It's all of it. Well, I love the message, you guys. I love you all personally. I think you're just so wonderful. And everyone, make sure to check out their new documentary on Netflix. Check out the first one, too. Just binge it all because it's all so good. But Less is Now. Make sure to check it out. And where can everyone find you guys?
It's real simple. They can go to theminimalists.com and they can find everything there, from our podcast, the books, to our YouTube channel, everything.
So fun. Well, I'm having them stick around because we're going to film one more episode after this. It's going to air next week. So get ready for part 2. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.